Hello, my name is Adam. Today is May 20th, 2020. I am taking an official NBA.com GMAT practice exam. I will try to think out loud as I go, but if I fall behind on time or something, I've never done this before, so if that happens, you might just have to follow along with my scratch paper. I've set up my own digital whiteboard using bit paper instead of using the new online GMAT whiteboard. Hopefully, most people will still be taking their tests in testing centers. So I've set this up to mimic the flip pad that they give you for scratch paper. It has 9 pages. This is the setup that I use, at least for Quant, to for my work, as well as to keep track of time. I did not invent this. It's out there. You can Google it, or you can email me at adam@alldaytestprep.com if you have any questions about it. I will probably only be taking the quant and the verbal sections. I will skip integrated reasoning and the essay. Once I have my windows. All right, let's see how this goes. Warehouse W's revenue from the sale of sofas was what % greater this year than it was last year? So we have a % change problem. So we want rev new minus rev old over rev old. And no information in the prompt. Move on to the statements. Warehouse W sold 10% more sofas this year than it sold last year. So in order to know something about revenue, we need to know something about price and quantity. This just tells us something about quantity. So by itself, it's not going to be helpful or sufficient, I should say. Warehouse W selling price was $30 greater this year. So this gives us information about price, but not quantity. So I'm guessing that together they will probably be helpful. So if we call quantity this year as being X, then quantity new is equal to 1.1 X. We could call price this year is Y. I should say, sorry, price last year is Y. Price this year then would be Y plus 30. Therefore, the revenue from this year would be 1.1X. Y plus 30 minus XY all over XY. And I can see it looks like 1.1 XY plus 33X minus XY all over XY. We're not going to get rid, no, that's not all going to cancel out, so E. Which of the following functions is f of x equal to f of 1 minus x for all values of x? For these, I usually like to test numbers. So if I say x is equal to 3, they're asking when is f of 3 equal to f of negative 2 for all values of x. I'm trying to eliminate answer choices here. So statement 1, f of 3 would be 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. F of negative 2 is 1 minus negative 2, which is 3. These are not equal, therefore it must not be true. In this case, for B, f of 3 is equal to 1 minus 9, which is negative 8. F of negative 2 is equal to 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. They're not equal. Eliminate B. For C, f of 3 is equal to 9 minus 4, which is equal to 5. F of negative 2 is equal to 4 minus 9, which is equal to negative 5. They're not equal. Eliminate D. Or C, I should say. For D, f of 3 is equal to 9 times 4, which is 36. F of negative 2 is equal to 2 squared 4 times 3 squared, so 4 times 9, which is 36. They are equal. I am, for the purposes of time, even though I haven't really proven that D is the right answer, it's possible E also gives something that equal, and I would have to test them again, but I'm going to guess D. A circular jogging track forms the edge of a lake that has a diameter of 2 miles. So that means the radius is 1 mile. Joanna walked around the track at an average rate of 3 miles per hour. T represents the number of hours it took Joanna to walk around the lake. Which of the following is a correct statement about her time? So the circumference of the lake is the distance around, which is 2 pi r, which is just 2 pi in this case. So rate times time equals distance. She walked a distance of 2 pi miles at a rate of 3 miles per hour. For the time it took her to do that, should be 2 pi over 3. 2 pi is a little bit more than 6, so this should be a little bit more than 2. Did one of the 3 members of a certain team sell at least 2 raffle tickets Sunday? So we got person A, person B, person C, and however many tickets they sold. The 3 members sold a total of 6 raffle tickets yesterday. So at least 2 raffle tickets. So if we want to try to maximize the chances of no one selling 2 raffle tickets, but we can't do that because if he's 0, he's 0. Well, then this guy sold all 6. Make it 1, 1. Well, then he sold 4, so there's no way. So that is sufficient, I believe. Seems a bit too easy, so I hope I'm not missing something. No 2 members of sold the same number of raffle tickets yesterday. So even here, if I say, okay, so he sold 0, we don't know how many they sold now. He sold 1, can't sell negative tickets. So this guy has to be 2 or some number greater than 2. So that is also sufficient. Circular gears P and Q start rotating at the same time at constant speeds. Gear P makes 10 revolutions per minute. Gear Q makes 40 revolutions per minute. So we got gear P, gear Q, 10 rev per minute is 40 rev per minute. How many seconds, so we got to convert units, after the gears start rotating, will gear Q have made exactly 6 more revolutions than gear P. So we want to find the respective times it will take them, so that gear Q, so if he has X revolutions, he does X plus 6 revolutions. Our time is going to be in minutes here, so I can remember to convert. So 10t is equal to X, 40t is equal to X plus 6. And what I want to do is I want to settle for this time. So what I'm going to do is subtract these two equations. 40 minus 10 is 30t. X plus 6 minus X is 6. So t is 1/5 of a minute, which is 12 seconds. Of the 75 houses in a certain community, 48 have a patio. How many of the houses in the community have a swimming pool? So that sounds like an overlapping set question to me. So we can either have a patio, not have a patio, or have a pool, not have a pool. Between this should represent every single person in our population. So we got 75 houses, that's our total. 48 have a patio. I'm going to circle this because it's data sufficiency, so I don't want to erase this. 22 plus 5 is, we got 27 people don't have a patio. How many have a pool? So we're looking for that box there. 38 of the houses have a patio, but no swimming pool. Patio, no pool, so that's here. I'll put a little 1 here. This guy here is 10. Still not enough to get that guy. The number of houses in the community that have a patio and a swimming pool. So not sufficient. The number of houses that have a patio and a swimming pool is equal to the number of houses in the community that have neither. So I got to forget about this for a second. Just call this X. Is equal to the number of houses that have neither. So it does not look like there's anything else we can do here. So now looking at them together, this is 10, this is 10, this is 38 again, this is 17, this here is 27, C. For every positive integer n, the function h of n is defined to be the product of all the even integers from 2 to the 2 to n inclusive. If p is a small prime factor of h 100 plus 1, then p is what? So the product of all the even integers from 2 to 100 plus 1. And we want the small prime factor of that, okay. Might end up skipping this. So I'm going to look for patterns. So the first even number is this. Second even number is this. So it's the second even number, third even number, all the way up to the 50th. So the 50th even number. The smallest prime factor. So this is going to be 2 times factor 1 plus 2. the sum of these numbers here is going to be 51 over 2, which is 50.5, 2 times plus 1, is this right? So 102. I feel like 17. I'm not sure. I feel like I did something wrong there. Oh, wait, no. The smallest prime factor, 2. I did something wrong. Oh, well. The number 75 can be written as the sum of 3 different positive integers. What if the sum of these integers? Of this, the sum of the squares. So to find those, instead of just randomly testing, I'm going to break 75 up into its prime factors. The squares. So what different. Actually, I'm just going to write out all the perfect squares and then try and figure it out. So 36 plus 25 is 60. 6 plus 3, 73. Ugh. 149 plus 16 is 65. 36 plus 16 is 50, 52, 41. 41 plus what? 34. Crap, why am I not? 49 plus 16 is 65. 64 plus 16 is 7. Or sorry, that's 80. 36 plus 25 is what? 61 plus 14. That's not a choice. Ugh. 25 plus 9 is what? 34. 41 is not a choice. 58. So I want 9 and 6 because it ends in 5. 58 plus 17. Oh dear, I'm missing something. Guess. And the figure above the radius of the circle with center O is 1. BC is also 1. So that is 1. That is 1. This is a triangle inscribed in a circle with a hypotenuse as the diameter. That makes it a right triangle. what is the area of the triangular region? So now I know it's a 30 because this is 1 and then the hypotenuse is 2, so it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So it's in this proportion of the sides. So the area is 1/2 1 times rad 3 over 2. A used car dealer sold a car at a profit of 25% of the dealer's purchase price for that car. Sold another car at a loss of 20% of his purchase price. If the dealer sold each car for $20,000, what was the dealer's total profit or loss in dollars for the two transactions combined? So he sold it for $20,000. So if a profit of 1.25, that means his purchase price times 1.25 is equal to 20,000. That is 5/4. So his purchase price here is 20,000 times 4/5 is, so he purchased this for 16,000, sold it for 20,000. That's a profit of $4,000. For the loss, a loss of 20%. That means he bought it for 20% more than what he sold it for. I should say 4/5 times what he purchased it. I'm sorry, 4/5 times. Yeah, 80% of what he purchased it for is equal to what he sold it for. So he purchased it for 20,000 times 5/4. So this is $25,000. So this is a $5,000 loss. So $4,000 profit, $5,000 loss, $1,000 loss total. 6 machines, each working at the same constant rate, can complete a job in 12 days. How many additional machines, each working at the same constant rate, will be needed to complete the job in 8 days? Ooh. So if I want to put everything in terms of just a single machine, so one machine's rate is one job every 12 days. I'm sorry, they're going to be one job every 72 days because it takes 6 machines. Can do it in 12 days. So to do the job in 8 days, that's 9 jobs for 72 job is one job every 8 days. So we'll take 9 machines to do it in 8 days, which is 3 more than 6. For a certain race, 3 teams were allowed to enter 3 members each. A team earned 6 minus n points whenever one of its members finished in nth place, where n is between 1 and 5 inclusive. There were no ties, disqualifications, or withdrawals. If no team earned more than 6 points, so 6 points is the max, was the least possible score a team could have earned. So we got team 1, team 2, team 3. So we want to max. So if I want to say team 1 scored the least, well, that means we want to maximize what team 2 and 3 score. So let's say So 6 points is the amount you can earn. So team 2 finished in first place, we'll say. So that guy gets 5 points. Then we can't put second place here now, so we'll put it here. So they got 4 points. Third place, we can't put either here because they'd be over, so that has to go here. So right, we can eliminate A, B, and C already because they have to get at least 3 points. Then for fourth place, we can put that here. Fifth place, we can put here. So 3 points is the minimum. So a law firm consists of 4 senior partners, 6 junior partners. How many different groups of 3 partners can be formed, in which at least one member of the group is a senior partner? Okay, so we got 4 seniors, 6 juniors. At least one member of the group is a senior partner. So I'm going to find how many total 3-person teams I can make. That's just going to be 10, choose 3. And then I'm going to subtract out the teams that don't have a senior partner. So that's going to just be all junior partners. So that's 6, choose 3. So 10 choose 3 is 10 factorial over 7 factorial times 3 factorial. So that's 10 times 9 times 8 over 3 times 2 times 1. This is 120 minus 6 choose 3, which I believe is 20, because for some reason it seems to come up a lot. 4, 20, 100. Which are the following functions? More function questions. Is f of a plus b equal to f of a plus f of b for all positive numbers a and b? So if I do the same thing as the one we had before, a is 2, b is 3. So we're saying f of 5 is equal to f of 2 plus f of 3. So for a, f of 5 would be 25. F of 2 would be 4. F of 3 is 9. 9 plus 4 is not equal to 25. A is out. For B, f of 5 is equal to 6. F of 2 is equal to 3. F of 3 is equal to 4. 4 plus 3 is not equal to 6, even though it's close. For C, f of 5 is the square root of 5. F of 2 is square root of 2. Square root of 2 plus square root of 3 is not equal to square root of 5. C is out. For D, f of 5 is equal to 2/5. F of 2 is equal to 1. 1 plus 1/3 is not equal to 2/5. D is out. So I hope E works. Otherwise, we're in trouble. F of 5 is negative 15. F of 2 is negative 6. F of 3 is negative 9. Negative 6 plus negative 9 is 15. Hallelujah. Doing good on time. If x is greater than y squared, which is greater than z to the 4th, which of the following statements could be true? So when is this going to be true? So everything here is going to be positive. So x is greater than y is greater than z. Absolutely, if x is 1,000,000, y is 100, and z is 1. So statement 1 could be true. So anything without it, only d, of course. Can z be greater than y, which is greater than x? I don't know. I don't want to think of this. These questions are sort of time suckers. I'm actually going to guess and save this time. On the xy plane, what is the y-intercept of some line L? So we're looking for B. The slope of line L is 3 times its y-intercept. So we have y is equal to 3b times x plus b. That doesn't help by itself, though. Statement 2 says the x-intercept of line L is negative 1/3. So when y is equal to 0, x is negative 1/3. By itself, we need at least 2 points to get the y-intercept, though. So now looking at them together, so we got 0 is equal to 3b times negative 1/3 plus b is 0. So we got 0 equals 0. Not helpful. What am I missing? So this E. So yes, I believe anytime the slope is equal to 3, so this will, so that doesn't help because there's many y-intercepts where this is true, given. That's m is 3 times its y-intercept. If $10,000 is invested at X%, simple annual interest for n years, which the following represents the total interest that will be earned in n years. So simple interest just means that it's the same amount every year. So for any given year, the principal's interest is always taken on the same principal, just the 10,000. It's 10,000 times x over 100, because x% means x over 100, which is just equal to 100x, and times how many years there are, because it's the same amount every year. So 100x n. But they keep it like this. And this is actually very confusing because this looks like an exponent. Oh wait, no, c, because that is an exponent. Yeah, 10,000 n, because this is really 100 xn, which is what it is. The positive integer k has exactly 2 positive prime factors, 3 and 7. Okay, so it could be 21, but it could have more than 1 3, more than 1 7, so it doesn't have to be 21. If k has a total of 6 positive factors, including 1 and k, what is the value of k? 3 squared is not a factor of k. Okay, so we have 1, 3, we have 1, 7. We don't have any more 3s, so that means everything else has got to be a 7. So our factors here, 1, 3, 21, 49. One, 3, 49, and 49 times 3. So that's only 5. So we had another 7. So 3, 21. 1, 3. Something, right? 1, 3, 7. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot 7 here. So it is this. 1, 3, 7. 49, 21, 147. So k is 147. 7 squared. Oh, crap. 3 squared is a factor of k. Fuck, I read that wrong. So this is not going to be sufficient because you don't, could be this. Or could it be? Could it be like something like this, which would be 1, 3, 7, 21. 49, 147. So this is saying it has to be this, I believe. And statement 2, 7 squared is not a factor, so that means we can't have more than 1 7. So they're each sufficient. And then y are positive integers. 450y is equal to n cubed. Which of the following must be an integer? So some number. So what does y have to contain? So 450, if I break it down, is 2 times 3 squared. Times 5 squared. So n cubed has to contain all of 2, a 3, and a 5, but you're going to cube it, so it's going to contain at least 3 of those. So that means from the y, we need to get 2 more 2s, at least. We need to get 1 more 3 at least, and 1 more 5, and a minimum. These have to come from the y. So 1, 3, so 1 gives us exactly all of those. We need to have a 1 in our answer. A, C, and D are eliminated. Y, no, because we need 1 more 3 coming from our Y, so 2. That's not everything to 2. Based on this, B is the answer. In the figure shown, the measure of angle PRS is how many degrees greater than PQR? PRS. So we're talking about this guy and this guy. Okay. Measure of angle QPR is 30. So this guy here is 30. What else does that tell me? Don't think much. Insufficient. The sum of the measures of angles PQR and PRQ. PQR, PRQ is Z. So Y plus Z is equal to 150. And we're looking for sort of 180 minus Z. Y plus Z is 150. So that means this is 30. So this is sort of the same information as the first guy. 30, 150. And so I think it's going to be E if they're giving the same information. It's either got to be D or E, that means. So I'm putting E. Unless I missed something. If ax plus b is equal to 0, is x greater than 0? A plus b is greater than 0. Okay, so does that mean, so say x is 2, let's just say a and b are each 1. That would make x equal to -1. So is x greater than 0? That gives us a no, so I want to try and get a yes now. So if I say this guy is -1, and b is equal to 2, so -1 plus 2 is still greater than 0. X here would be 2, because -2 plus 2, and this gives me a yes. So this is insufficient. Once I have a no and a yes, a minus b is greater than 0. I'm going to do the same thing. 5 and 1. So x here is what, -1/5. Is x greater than 0? No. FA here. Is 5. And this is what? -6. 5 minus -6 still is greater than 0. Then x would have to be 6/5, which is a yes. Together. So I can reuse this example here. So I could add these two equations to say what, just a is greater than 0. That's all I know about them together. But we don't really know anything about b. E. So a is greater than 0. B could be negative as long as it's E. No, I've fallen a bit behind on time. In the sequence of positive integers, x1, x2, x3, what is the value of the first number? X to the I is equal to x to the I minus 1. Is that a subscript? It's hard to tell. So I think this is saying any number is equal to the number before divided by 2. So 1, 1/2, 1/4. I could also have 2. So this doesn't tell anything about the first number. X to the 5th is x to the 4th over x to the 4th plus 1. So x to the 5th is the number before it over itself plus 1. First one's insufficient. Second one's insufficient. The question is together. So we get x 1/2 x, 1/4 x, 1/8 x. 1, 2, 3. So this is our x to the 5th here. So we're saying 1/16. So x over 16 is equal to x over 8 over x over 8 plus 1. I think we should be able to solve for x here. I can cross multiply and what x squared over 8 plus x equals 2x. So if we can solve for x, we can get any number here, so I'm thinking C. If 0 is between, R is between 0 and 1, S is between 1 and 2, the following must be less than 1. So the denominator is bigger than the numerator. So 1 for sure. R times S. So we can have 0.99999 times 1.999, so that does not have to be true. S minus R. So it could be 1.999 minus 0.0001, so that doesn't have to be true. So only 1. Crap, I gotta skip maybe 2 questions. If x and y are positive integers, such that x equals 8y plus 12, what is the greatest common divisor of x and y? I'm gonna skip this to catch up. The number of stamps that Kay and Alberto had were in the ratio of 5 to 3 respectively. So we had K to Alberto. We'll say so 5 to 3. So I like writing ratios in terms of the actual number of things, not just the ratios. We'll say he had 5x stamps. Alberto had 3x stamps. They had a total of 8x stamps. K gave Alberto 10 of her stamps. So she now has 5x minus 10 stamps. He has 3x plus 10 stamps. The ratio of the number K had, the number Alberto had was 7 to 5. So 5x minus 10 over 3x plus 10 equals 7 over 5. As a result, K had how many more stamps than Alberto? So this minus that. Cross multiply 25x minus 50 equals 21x plus 70. 4x equals 120. X equals 30. So K had 140 stamps. Alberto had 90 plus 10, which is 140. And my computer froze. There we go. Is the average of 5 different positive integers at least 30, which is the same as saying is the sum at least 150. Each of the integers is a multiple 10. We have different positive integers. So the lowest value we can have for the sum is exactly 150. So, whoops, that is sufficient. The sum of the 5 integers is 160. Well, that directly answers our. On the number line shown is 0 halfway between R and S. So is 0 here. S is to the right of 0. We don't know anything about distances, so that's not sufficient. The distance between T and R is the same as the distance between T and negative S. Ooh. The distance between T and R between T and negative S. So either negative s is here, but if s is negative, it can also be over here. So that I think is insufficient. S is to the right of 0. So now we know negative s is here. Negative s, so yes, I think together it's sufficient. The cost of a square slab is proportional to its thickness and also proportional to the square of its length. So cost is equal to thickness length squared. What is the cost of a square? So 3 meters long. 0.1 thick. So 3, 3, 3, 3, then 0.1. Times 9. So then this is also sort of times some constant. So we sort of have to find the constant. The cost of a square slab that is 2 meters long and 0.2 meters thick is 160 more. So that means 0.2 times 2 squared, which is 4, times some constant is equal to 0.1 times 4 times the same constant plus 160. So so this is 4/5 C is equal to 4/10, 2/5 C plus 160. We should be able to find our constant. If we can find our constant, we can find this. And so I'm just going to go ahead and select D because it looks like statement 2 is giving me very similar information. If X is an integer, is the median of the 5 numbers shown greater than the average? So I'm going to arrange this in ascending order. I don't know where X goes. X is greater than 6. Okay, so let's say X is 7. We have this. Let's also say, I don't know, X is 100. So in this case, median is 8. In this case, the median is 7. The average is going to be 27 plus 4, so 31/5, which is 6 and something. So the median is greater here. Here, the average, I think, should be greater because the 100 is going to pull it. So insufficient. X is greater than the median of the 5 numbers. So I can use this again. So that means it's 8 has to be our median. So 1, 3, 8, 9, 12. So I can still use this example. So I want to see if I can get another example where the median is greater. Yeah, the median is 8. The average, the mean is 21 plus 8 is 29, plus 4 is 33. 33 over 5 is 6 and 6.6. So I think it's E. Because I can use this where the average is greater. We also have this. Last month, 15 homes were sold in Town X. The average sale price of the homes was $150,000, and the median was for which of the statements must be true. I'm going to skip this. 3 and 1 looks like a big time sucker. Hopefully finish strong on the last question. If there are more than 2 numbers in a certain list, is each of the numbers in the list equal to a 0? The product of any 2 numbers in the list is equal to 0. Well, no, because I can have, well, actually I think yes. Can we have duplicate numbers? I can have that. Yeah, so if each of the numbers could be equal to 0, then we can have duplicates. So this would be a yes, this would be a no, so insufficient. The sum of any 2 numbers in the list is equal to 0. So I could have 0, 0, 0. That's a yes. I could have 5, negative 5. There's got to be more than numbers, so there's no way to do this unless it's all 0. So I think that is sufficient. I could look at this a little bit more. Like negative 1, 1, 0. No, so B. All right. For verbal, I usually just use 1 page of scratch paper. And all I do is usually trying to eliminate the 4 wrong answer choices, as opposed to picking the 1 correct one. The first shots of the American Revolution fired at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts, were, according to legend, heard around the world. But news of these shots, which were sent by swift messenger, took 4 days in reaching New York City, as well as another additional 11 days to reach Charleston, South Carolina. So it's not the shots that were sent by swift messenger, it's the news. News, I believe, should be singular. So it should be was. So that is not right. B, but news of these shots that was sent by swift messenger. No, I think you still need the commas. But news of these shots that was sent by Swift Messenger took 4 days in order to reach New York City, and also another 11 days to reach Charleston, South Carolina. The first American Revolution Party the countermasters were legend heard around the world. But news of these shots that was I don't think that were same mistake. News should be a was. But news of these shots took 4 days by Swift Messenger in order to reach New York City, another 11 days, in addition to reach Charleston, South Carolina. Another in addition is redundant. I like E. The first shots of the American Revolution fired at Lexington, Concord, Massachusetts were according to legend heard around the world. But news of these shots took 4 days by Swift Messenger to reach New York City and another 11 days to reach Charleston, South Carolina. Sounds good. As the honeybee stinger is heavily barbed, staying where it is inserted, this results in the act of stinging causing the bee to sustain fatal injury. I don't like the this results, the as this doesn't sound idiomatic. As the heavily barbed stinger of the honeybee stays where it is inserted, with the result, that doesn't sound right. The honeybee stinger, heavily barbed and staying where it is inserted, results in the fact, that is redundant. The heavily barbed stinger of the honeybee stays where it is inserted, comma, and results in the act of stinging, causing the bee to sustain a fatal injury. Could be. The honeybee stinger is heavily barbed and stays where it is inserted, with the result that the act of stinging causes honeybee stinger is heavily barbed and stays where it is inserted, with the result. That seems too many words. Heavily barbed stinging honeybee stays where it is inserted, comma, and results in the act of stinging. D, but as honeybee stinger is heavily barbed, this results I'll say D, but I'm actually reconsidering A. When working with overseas clients, an understanding of cultural norms is at least as important as grasping the pivotal business issues for the global manager. I think the structure is a bit off. I'm going to eliminate A. It just doesn't sound right. When they work with overseas clients, understanding cultural norms is at least of equal importance. So you need, after that opening modifier, you need to say who that they is. So it should be the global manager, not the cultural norms. For global managers working with overseas clients, understanding cultural norms is at least as important as grasping the pivotal business issues. C. I think that's enough for me to choose it. Which of the following most logically completes the argument? The growing popularity of computer-based activities was widely predicted to result in a corresponding decline in television viewing. Recent studies have found that in the United States, people who own computers watch on average significantly less television than people who do not own computers. In itself, however, this finding does very little to show that computer use tends to reduce television viewing time. since we need to care about we don't know anything about what their habits were before uh, they got into computing. So many people who watch little or no television do not own a computer. I don't think that's what it's saying. Even the most computer owners in the United States watch significantly less television than the national average. Some watch far more. Well, no, that could. Some can mean anything. Computer owners in the United States predominantly belong to a demographic group that have long been known to spend less time watching television. So C. It's not. In other words, the computer isn't causing the television use to decline. They just happen to be in a group. I think we have enough leisure time. No. No. These have nothing to do with what they're talking about. C. Kitchen Magazine plans to license the use of its name by a line of cookware. For a magazine, licensing the use of its name for products involves some danger, since if the products disappoint consumers, the magazine's reputation suffers, with consequent reduction in circulation and advertising. However, experts have evaluated the cookware and found it superior to all other cookware advertised in Kitchen. Therefore, Kitchen can collect its licensing fee without endangering its other revenues. The argument above assumes which of the following? No, the line of cookware is superior to that which will carry the Kitchen name. Kitchen will not license the use of its name for any products other than the line of cookware. Makers of cookware will not find Kitchen unless direct advertising vehicle because of the magazine's name. I kind of like C. Because that gives a reason why it may affect advertising. A New York City ordinance of 1897 regulated the use of bicycles, mandated a maximum speed of 8 miles an hour, required of cyclists to keep feet on pedals and hands on handlebars at all times, feet on pedals and hands on handlebars at all times, and it granted pedestrians right of way. So it's a list question, and it's not parallel because of that it at the end. So I don't like that. A New York City ordinance of 1897 regulated the use of bicycles, mandated a maximum speed of 8 miles an hour, required cyclists to keep feet on pedals and hands on handlebars at all times, and granted pedestrians right of way. So again, this is not parallel. A New York City ordinance of 1897 regulating the use of bicycles mandated a maximum speed of 8 miles an hour, required cyclists that they keep feet on pedals and hands on handlebars at all times, and it granted. I think again, it's not parallel, but now I'm. A New York City ordinance of 1897 regulating the use of bicycles, mandating. No, because it's in the past. So, New York City Ordinance of 1897, regulating the use of bicycles, mandated a maximum speed of 8 miles per hour. Required cyclists keep feet on pedals and handlebars, and granted. That's exactly what I'm looking for. In a new book about the anti-party feeling of the early political leaders of the United States, Ralph Ketchum argues that the first 6 presidents differed decisively from later presidents because the first 6 held values inherited from the classical humanist tradition of 18th century England. In this view, government was designed not to satisfy the private desires of the people, but to make them better citizens. This tradition stressed the disinterested devotion of political leaders to the public good, but to make them better citizens. This tradition stressing disinterested justice, wisdom, and courage were more important qualities in a leader than the ability to organize voters and win elections. Indeed, leaders were supposed to be called to office rather than to run for office, and if they took up the burdens of public office with a sense of duty, leaders also believed that such offices were naturally their due because of their social preeminence or their contributions to the country. And if they took up the burdens of public office with a sense of duty, leaders also believed that such office naturally their due because of their social preeminence. Given this classical conception of leadership, it is not surprising that the first 6 presidents condemned political parties. Parties were partial by definition, self-interested, and therefore serving something other than the transcendent public good. Okay, so first 6 presidents were selfless, public-facing people. Even during the first presidency, Washington's, however, the classical conception of virtuous leadership was being undermined by commercial forces that had been gathering since at least the beginning of the 18th century. Commerce, its profit-making, its self-interestedness, its individualism became the enemy of these classical ideals. Although Ketchum does not picture the struggle with this way, he does rightly see Jackson's tenure, so the first person after the 6, as the culmination of the acceptance of party, commerce, and individualism. For the Jacksonians, nonpartisanship lost its relevance, and under the direction of Van Buren, party gained a new legitimacy. The classical ideals of the first 6 presidents became identified with a privileged aristocracy, an aristocracy that had to be overcome in order to allow competition between opposing political interests. Ketchum is so strongly committed to justifying the classical ideas, however, that he underestimates the advantage of their decline. For example, the classical conception of leadership was incompatible with the modern notion of the freedoms of speech and press, freedoms intimately associated with the legitimacy of opposing political parties. Okay. It can be inferred from the author of the passage, I would most likely agree that modern views of the freedoms of speech and press are very closely show. No. Political rights, less compatible with democracy and individualism than classical ideals. Now he says it's more compatible. Political rights uninfluenced by the formation of opposing political parties. I like that because he says freedoms intimately associated with the legitimacy of. So I don't think he says that that's not inherent in these parties. He's more saying the guys afterwards were more did more to serve it. Political rights uninfluenced. Let's see. I don't know. I spent too much time on that too. Which of the following, if true, provides the least support for the author's argument about commerce and political parties during Jackson's presidency? Many supporters of Jackson resisted the commercialization that could result from participation in the national economy. Protest against the corruption of the political United States subsided during Jackson's presidency. During Jackson's presidency, the use of money became more common than bartering for goods and services. Huh? I don't think this has anything to do with anything. Northerners and Southerners supported Jackson because Southerners were opposed to the development of a commercial economy. So that's consistent with it. Andrew Jackson did not feel as strongly committed to the classical ideals of leadership as George Washington had felt. I'm actually going to go with B because they should have gone up if free speech. Which of the following best describes the attitude of the first 6 presidents towards political party? As discussed in the passage, political parties were central to the notions of democracy in which the United States government was based. No, they did not like parties. Personal character and leadership was as important as affiliation with a political party. Maybe political parties were one way to ensure that government can meet the needs. No, political parties were, though undesirable, were inevitable in a democratic political system. I don't think they thought that. Political parties represented opposing political interests rather than the general public good. So I'm interested. I like E. The author of the passage we most agree with much long statements about Ketchum. He overemphasizes the influence of classical ideals on the first 6 presidents of the United States. Now he says he just fails to look at the benefits of moving on from them. He fails to recognize that classical ideals have little influence in politics. No, he does not pay adequate attention to the negative aspects. Maybe. He inaccurately suggests that classical ideas give rise to a I don't think that's true. He underestimates. That's too strong. He underestimates other than the humanist tradition in the first 6 presidents. No, he just says the ones that came after weren't as bad as. In countries where automobile insurance includes compensation for whiplash injuries sustained in automobile accidents, reports of having suffered such injuries are twice as frequent as they are in countries where whiplash is not covered. Some commentators have argued correctly that since there is presently no objective test for whiplash, spurious reports of whiplash injuries cannot be readily identified. These commentators are, however, wrong to draw the further conclusion that in the countries with the higher rates of reported whiplash injuries, half of the reported cases are spurious. Clearly, in countries where automobile insurance does not include compensation for whiplash, people have little incentive to report whiplash injuries than they actually have suffered. So they're not going to file in places where they're not protected. In the argument given, the two boldface portions play with the following rows. The first is evidence that has been used to support a conclusion that the argument criticizes. Since there is no. That's right. He's not bad. The second is a position that the argument defends. No, he does not do that. The first is a claim that has been used to support a conclusion that the argument accepts. No, he doesn't accept it. The person in immediate conclusion. No, that's evidence. It's not disputed that there's like a. Turning away from literary realism to write romantic stories about the peasant life and landscape of northern Sweden in 1909, Selma Lagerlöf. In 1909, Selma Lagerlöf was a novelist who became the first woman and was also the first Swedish writer to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. So after this opening modifier, you had to say who is the person who turned away from literary realism. So you had to have Selma Lagerlöf here. She turned away from literary realism and wrote romantic stories about the peasant life and landscape of northern Sweden. And novelist Selma Lagerlöf in 1909 became the first woman, as well as the first Swedish writer that won. I don't like that. Selma Lagerlöf was a novelist who turned away from literary realism to write romantic stories about the peasant life and landscape of northern Sweden. And in 1909, she became the first woman, in addition to the first Swedish writer winning, to win, it should be. Winning implies it's still ongoing. A novelist who turned away from literary realism to write romantic stories about the peasant life and landscape of northern Sweden, Selma Lagerlöf became in 1909 the first woman and also the first Swedish writer to win. I like that. I'm going to select D so I can save some time. There's no consensus among researchers regarding what qualifies a substance as a pheromone, while most agree on a basic definition of pheromones as chemicals released by one individuals of a species which, when detected by another individuals of the same species, elicit a specific behavioral or physiological response. Some researchers also specify that the response to pheromones must be unconscious. In addition, the distinction between pheromones and odorants, chemicals that are consciously detected as odors, can be blurry, and some research classify pheromones as a type of odorant. Evidence that pheromone responses may not involve conscious odor perception. Evidence that pheromone responses may not involve conscious odor perception comes from the finding that in many species, pheromones are processed by the vomeronasal or olfactory system, which uses a special structure in the nose, the vomeronasal organ, to receive chemical signal. Conscious. The special structure to the neural connections between the VNO and the brain are separate from those of the main olfactory system, whose processing of odorants triggers sensations of smell. While the VNO does process many animal pheromone signals, not all animal pheromones work through the VNO. Conversely, not all chemical signals transmitted via the VNO qualify as pheromones. For example, garter snakes detect a chemical signal from earthworms, one of their favorite foods, via the VNO, and they use this signal to track their prey. Earthworms. Okay. Now, the primary purpose of the passage is to compare and contrast the ways in which the vomeronasal organ. No. He wants to talk about pheromones. So summarize the debate over the role plays in odor perception. I don't think so. Or like C, I think. Yes. There's no consensus. What do I want to do in the passage? The fact that pheromones are processed by the VNO in many animal species has been taken as evidence of which of the following: that it's unconscious. D. It can be inferred from the passage that in classifying pheromones as a type of odorant, the researcher referred to in the highlighted text posit that odorant posit that pheromones are perceived. Some reasons odorant. Therefore, it's conscious. Citizens of Parktown are worried by the increased frequency of serious crimes committed by local teenagers. In response, the city government has instituted a series of measures designed to keep teenagers at home in the late evening. If the measures succeed in keeping teenagers home, however, they are unlikely to affect the problem that concerns citizens, since most crimes committed occur between 3 and 6 p.m., which has found weakens the argument. So it's, that means suggests that the curfew will work. Some of the measures adopted in other places have failed to reduce the number, so that would strengthen it. The crimes committed by teenagers in the afternoon are mostly small thefts. Doesn't matter the magnitude. We only care about serious crimes. I should say teenagers are much less likely to commit serious crimes when they're at home than when they are not at home. I think that's Good. So that means, sort of regardless of the time, they'll still be reduced. Any decrease in the need for police patrols in the late evening would not mean, no, that would strengthen the argument. The schools in Parktown, that could be more intensive patrol. The schools in Parktown just that will be available to teenagers until 6 p.m. Ooh. I sort of think that doesn't matter because you don't know that the after school programs will work necessarily. I'm going to say C, but I'm not sure. The country of Baurisia has until now been self-sufficient in both grain and meat. However, with growing prosperity, I should say, in Baurisia, with growing prosperity in Baurisia has come a steadily increasing per capita consumption of meat. And it takes several pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat. 2 grain equals 1 meat. Therefore, since per capita income in Baurisia is almost certain to rise further, but increases in domestic grain production are highly unlikely, Baurisia will soon likely to become an importer of grain. So which one of them suggests that they won't, in fact, necessarily become an importer in grain? When people increase their consumption of meat, they also tend to increase their grain. No, that supports it. The per capita consumption of meat in Baurisia is roughly the same across all income levels. I don't think that matters. Per capita consumption of meat has not increased substantially in recent years in those countries from which Baurisia is likely to import meat. So if they do that, the grain, they don't need to import grain if they import the meat directly. So maybe it's more economical for. So yeah, sort of like that. IT. In the mid-1920s, the Hawthorne Works of the Western Electric Company was the scene of an intensive series of experiments that would investigate changes in working conditions as to their effects on workers' performance. Okay, that would. These are experiments. I don't love it, but I'll leave it in. The electric company was seen in an intense series of experiments investigating the effects that changes in working conditions would have on workers' performance. Investigating. I don't think that makes it like a hypothetical. It's not hypothetical. For investigating, I don't think that's idiomatic. That investigated changes in working conditions effects on workers' performance. It's sort of like that. To investigate's not right. In the mid-1920s, the Hawthorne Works of the Western Electric Company was the scene of intensive series of experiments that investigated changes in working conditions effects on workers' performance. I like D, shorter. A study group followed a group of teenagers who had never smoked and tracked whether a study followed a group of teenagers who had never smoked and tracked whether they took up smoking and how their mental health changed. After 1 year, the incidence of depression among those who had taken up smoking was 4 times as high as one among those who had not. Since nicotine in cigarettes changes brain chemistry, perhaps thereby affecting mood, it's likely that smoking contributes to depression. So which of the following most strengthens the argument? Something that says they weren't more predisposed to depression before they started smoking. Participants who were depressed at the start of the study were no more likely to be smokers after 1 year than were those who were not depressed. So that's sort of exactly what I just said. Yes, let me go with A. Move on. There are no legal limits, as there are for cod and haddock, on the size of monkfish that can be caught, a circumstance that contributes to their depletion through overfishing. There are no legal. Sort of feel like, I'm like, some of these commas seem like they should be semicolons, but usually there's not like punctuation on the GMAT. I'll leave it in, but I don't love A. There are no legal limits. There are no legal limits on the size of monkfish that can be caught, unlike cod or haddock. Unlike the legal limits on cod or haddock, circumstances that contributes to depleting them. No, that's who's the them referring to? That's not right. There are legal limits on the size of cod and haddock that can be caught, but not for monkfish, which contributes to their depletion. Shouldn't be its. Unlike cod and haddock, there are no size limits on catching monkfish. Unlike for cod and haddock, because you got to be comparing the legal limits, the legal size limits of one to the legal size limits of the other. And also, it's there, which I don't like. Unlike catching cod and haddock, there are no legal size limits on catching monkfish. Unlike catching cod and haddock, there are no legal size limits on catching monkfish, contributing to their depletion because they are overfished. The because sort of it shouldn't be because it's in addition to the fact that they're overfished. I like A. ComCorp shipping clerk. Last week, no shipments of building supplies were sent out on Friday. The five special order shipments sent out last week were sent out on Thursday, and each of those special order shipments consisted entirely of building supplies. The 4 shipments were sent to Truex Construction last week, none of which consisted of building supplies. Okay. What of the following must be true? All of ComCorp's shipments of building supplies last week were specially ordered. No. But they couldn't have. None of ComCorp shipments sent on Friday and last week was sent to Truax Construction. No, because they didn't receive building supplies. The shipment sent by Compex was specially ordered. And those all contained building supplies. So I think C is the right answer. No, it doesn't have to be true. Let's see. Even more than mountainside slides of mud or snow, naturally occurring forest fires promote the survival of aspen trees. Aspen's need for fire may seem illogical since aspens are particularly vulnerable to fires. Whereas the bark of most trees consists of dead cells, the aspen's bark is a living, functioning tissue that, along with the rest of the tree, succumbs quickly to fire. The explanation is that each aspen, while appearing to exist separately as a single tree, is in fact only the stem or shoot of a far larger organism. A group of thousands of aspens can actually constitute a single organism called a clone that shares an interconnected root system and a unique set of genes. Thus, when one aspen, a single stem, dies, the entire clone is affected. When alive, a stem sends hormones into the root system to suppress formation of further stems. When the stem dies, its hormone signal also ceases. If a clone loses many stems simultaneously, the resulting hormonal imbalance triggers a huge increase in new rapidly grown shoots that can outnumber the ones destroyed. An aspen grove needs to experience fire or some disturbance regularly or will fail to regenerate and spread. Will fail to regenerate. Instead, coniferous trees will invade the aspen grove's borders and increasingly block out sunlight needed by the aspens. So they need to experience that hormonal imbalance to regenerate. The primary purpose of the passage is to explain the qualities that make a particular organism unique. Maybe evolutionary change. I don't think they talk about evolution at all. Reasons that a phenomenon benefits a particular organism. Fire, that could be it. So not quality, there's only one quality, so I like C. It can be inferred from the passage that when aspen groves experience a disturbance, such a disturbance leads to a hormonal imbalance. I think so. What that triggers the new shoots to grow. Soil conditions are mentioned. Thins out aspen grows, and no, that's what would happen if they didn't regenerate. No, it triggers regeneration. No, A. According to the passage, which of the following would occur if an aspen grove failed to regenerate periodically? Individual aspens would cease to produce hormones. Individualisms would grow. No, they don't mention anything about where they grow. The root system of a growth clone would die. Growth would die, yes. D. The primary purpose of the passage is to new passage. Many people believe that because wages are lower in developing countries than in developed countries, competition from developing countries in goods traded internationally will soon eliminate larger numbers of jobs in developed countries. Many people believe that because wages are lower in developing countries, competition from developing countries and goods traded internationally will soon eliminate large numbers of jobs in developed countries. Currently developed countries, advanced technology results in higher productivity, which accounts for other higher wages. Advanced technology is being transferred ever more speedily across borders, but even with the latest technology, productivity and wages in developing countries will remain lower in developed countries for many years because developed countries have far better infrastructure and better educated workers. When productivity in a developing country does catch up, experience suggests that wages there will rise. Some individual firms in developing countries have raised their productivity but kept their wages low, which are influenced by average productivity in the country's economy. However, in a developing country's economy as a whole, productivity improvements in goods traded internationally are likely to cause an increase in wages. Productivity in developing countries' economy as a whole, productivity in goods traded internationally. Furthermore, if wages are not allowed to rise, the value of the country's currency will appreciate, which, from the developed country's point of view, is the equivalent of increased wages in the developing country. And although in the past a few countries have deliberately kept their currencies undervalued, that is now much harder to do in a world where capital moves more freely. Whoa, pretty complicated. The primary purpose of the passage is to identify the origin of a common misconception. I don't think best. Discuss the implications of a generally accepted principle. Present information relevant and a commonly held belief. I sort of like that. Controversial is not. Let's see. The passage suggests that if the movement of capital in the world were restricted, which of the following would be likely? Advanced technology could move more quickly from developed countries to developing countries. Developed countries could compete more effectively for jobs with developing countries. The country's average wages could increase without significantly increasing the sophistication of its technology or the value of its currency. So capital moves freely. They can't keep their currency undervalued. Maybe C. Workers can obtain higher wages by increasing their productivity. So move freely, they can't undervalue their currency. Which is the equivalent of increased wages. E. The passage suggests that which of the following would best explain why, in a developing country, some firms that have raised their productivity continue to pay low wages. The education level of workers in the country determines wages. The average productivity of the workers has not risen. When productivity does not catch up experience with us, the wages will rise. I think D. Some individual firms and developers kept their wages low because they're like that. Ugh, hopefully no more reading comprehension. As the former chair of the planning board for 18 consecutive years and a board member for 28 years, Joan Philkill attended more than 400 meetings and reviewed more than 700 rezoning applications. So she wasn't the former chair for 18 consecutive years. That's not right. The former chair of the planning board for 18 consecutive years. No. Same issue. Former, no. As the chair, I like E, I think. As the chair of the planning board for 18 consecutive years and the board member years. Blah, blah, blah. Until now, only injectable vaccines against influenza have been available. Parents are reluctant to subject children to the pain of injections, but adults who are at risk of serious complications from influenza are commonly vaccinated. A new influenza vaccine administered painlessly in a nasal spray is effective for children. However, since children seldom develop serious complications from influenza, no significant public health benefit would result from widespread vaccination of children using nasal spray. But what if they could be prevented from transmitting to their stupid parents? Which value is an assumption. Any person who has received the injectable vaccine can safely receive the nasal spray as well. No. The new vaccine uses the same mechanism. I don't think the mechanism matters. I think D is exactly what it said. As a result of a supernova explosion, every human being on Earth was bombarded on February 23rd, 1977 by about 100 billion neutrinos. Fortunately, neutrinos are harmless elementary particles that are produced in nuclear reactions and that interact very weakly with matter. Okay, maybe. Self-assuming explosion of human was murder and 100 billion neutrinos. Fortunately, neutrinos, which are harmless, are elementary particles. No, the harmless part can't be incidental. Formerly neutrinos. No, they're not. Fortunately, neutrinos are harmless. And which? No, because it's not parallel. Fortunately, these harmless elementary. No. It's not fortunate that they produce nuclear reactions. It's fortunate that they're harmless. No, the same problem. So I like A. With no natural predators and expanses of green suburban neighborhoods, with no natural predators and expanses of green suburban neighborhoods that allow no hunting, wildlife estimate the New Jersey population to have grown to exceed 175. So it's a bit confusing because they're saying not that there have been no expanses, there have been expanses that allow no hunting because you can't hunt deer. The population has grown. I think that's a bit confusing in A because it sounds like no natural predators and no expanses. So hopefully something fixes that. With no natural predators, and actually it's deer that have no natural predators, not wildlife officials, so A is definitely wrong. With no natural predators and with the expanses of green suburban neighborhoods that do not allow hunting, wildlife fishermen, no, it's deers. That has to come after the comma. With no natural predators and with expanses of green suburban neighborhoods where there is no hunting, the deer population in New Jersey, wildlife, I don't like that. Without natural predators and no hunting allowed in expanses of green suburban neighborhoods, without natural, New Jersey has a deer population. No. It's not New Jersey that doesn't have predators. Without natural predators and with expansive green suburban neighborhoods where there is no hunting, crap. That's pretty much all of them. So where did I miss? With no natural predators and with expansive green suburban neighborhoods. Maybe C, because with no natural predators and with expansive green suburban neighborhoods where there is no hunting, the deer population in New Jersey, wildlife officials estimate, has grown. I think C is the closest, even though I didn't love it. Sales of telephones have increased dramatically over the last year. In order to take advantage of this increase, Mammoth Industries plans to expand production of its own model of telephone while continuing its already very extensive advertising of the product. which I find true, provides most support for the view that Mammoth Industries cannot increase its sales of telephones. So what if all the increase in cell phone sales is due to new competitors, something like that? Although it sells all of the telephones that it produces, Mammoth Industries' share of all telephone sales has declined over the last year. I like that, maybe. Although that doesn't necessarily mean that it cannot increase its sales using that strategy. Mammoth Industries' inventory has declined slightly over the last year. That doesn't necessarily say anything about sales. Advertising has made the brand name of Mammoth Industries telephones widely known. A few consumers know that Mammoth Industries owns the brand. I think so. Mammoth Industries telephone is one of the three brands of telephone that have together accounted for the bulk. I don't think that matters. Despite a slight decline in the retail price, sales of Mammoth Industries telephones have fallen in the last year. I think so. I'm gonna look at C though again. I think C. So people aren't even buying more when the price goes down. So it sounds like they don't like something about Mammoth. The striking differences between the semantic organization of Native American languages and that of European languages. The semantic organization and that of European languages in both grammar and vocabulary. That sounds redundant. Striking differences between the semantic organization and so the differences have who beers out. So I think it's gonna be A or C based on this. Running out of time. Fossils of a whale that beached on an African shore more than a million years ago and was subsequently butchered by hominids have been recovered by paleontologists. Sounds okay. So it can't be has for fossils. Fossils of a whale. I think A. According to a survey of graduating medical students, minority graduates anyway 4 times more likely. I gotta guess. All right, I'm just gonna click through to the end. This looks like a verbal question.